What's up everyone, welcome back to q.v.o Games. My name is Juan and today we're doing a Before You Buy Bitoku by Devir Games. Check out this box by the way, look how nice that looks. It's nice. Yeah, I like the way it looks a lot. I love the artwork on it. A lot of the artwork on the game honestly is really beautiful. I love how it looks, primarily. So, let's, Before You Buy is my style of reviews essentially, and if you made it this far so far, if you haven't really clicked off the video yet, just started. Comment, like, subscribe. I appreciate it. Really helps a lot. Let's talk games. I love chatting about games, recommend some games. Even just like give your opinion about the game. Honestly, if you think I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong. Or tell me why I'm wrong. Right? I love to discuss and find out why. That would be awesome. I think I'm saying that now, but I think in the future it may not be that awesome because you guys might be really mean sometimes. Maybe, right? We'll see how you guys are. Whenever that day comes, I can talk to you. Cool. So in Bitoku, it doesn't really have a set mechanic. I feel you can do a little bit of deck building, a little bit of engine building, a little bit of worker placement, dice placement, I guess you can call it more than worker, dice placement, and you collect different resources from dice and the dice. In Bitoku, the theme essentially is that you're trying to be a higher spirit. You do that by the point salad thing of getting the most points, right? You want to get the most points in in any way possible. It's really point salad. So you do that essentially. Let's go over the game a little bit. This is gonna be your player board. I call it my engine. Maybe not the best thing to call it, but that's kind of my opinion. Correct me if I'm wrong. Tell me, let me know. Cool. So up top, you're going to have your little pilgrims who are all sleeping. They're all sleeping side up. There's the little crystal spots in every little section here. Crystals essentially at the beginning of the spring phase get you different resources. Or different actions, or different little things that help you, right? You collect them in the spring phase and you get to reap the benefits from having your crystals up there. On the side here, you have your awoken pilgrims. If you want to use them to awaken your guardian, you sacrifice one of them. Why would you want to awaken your guardian? Because your guardians are the dice, and these dice get awakened like this when you put them up like that, and they move up onto the board. And the board is where your main kind of the meat and potatoes of the game is at. That's where you want to be, have your guardian. Then you have to do it to get the game going, and you collect different resources from the board itself as well. Cool. Going back to the player board for a little bit more, you're going to start off with your starting 5 cards. It's going to be the Shinokami, Imamushi, Kappa, Kitsune, and the Nezumi. Might have butchered those because they're all more Japanese phrases. They're all they're not in Japanese, but very much Japanese words. Probably butchered those, but however, beautiful artwork. I love it. Coming down here a little bit is your Iwakaru rocks. The Iwakaru rocks essentially get you points into the game. Why do they get you points? Because when you put them down, you have to have your pilgrims kind of line up next to them to activate them. And depending on what the icons on there are, the icons determine how many points you get. Like at the end of the game, they determine this is not the only way to gain points, but you gain extra points from those at the end of the game. Bottom here, it's your little like they almost look like little buildings essentially, and the buildings are going to basically mark when you built a building over here on the main player board. So this is going to be your little guy, your little meeple person who travels along the little path here with the cards. Let me show you how that looks, because it's actually a really cool little detail I love a lot. I love how they all line up to make you a path this way when you have them. Probably my favorite thing about the game, to be honest. I love the minute details like this. It's just, they're awesome. And you make a little pathway, and they get to travel along the steps, just like that. Really cool. I actually like that a lot. Cool. Let me show you actually an example of this. I'm going to show you 3 because I think 4 is I messed it up. So it looks like this. And your little guy gets to travel through it. You reap the benefits, of course, at the bottom. And you get different points, different rewards, little resources or icons to kind of do more things for you. Awesome. That's kind of the basics of the board, essentially, your player board. That's where you kind of set your things, you play on it. Coming over here to the main board. So you have your crystals down here, like I mentioned. You line your crystal. You can collect crystals here. Line it up here. How do you collect crystals? You do that from again. You're placing your dice up here. You place your dice here, and you get your crystals from there. Above that, you have little houses, and the houses essentially are the buildings. You can build them, and when people go into specific spots, they actually end up being you gain a reward from placing it, of course, at the top left to the top left tile. But whenever they use your location, you actually reap a benefit of it as well. So you kind of want to pick the best one that gives you that benefit. On the left here, you have a Mitama. Above it, the Dragonfly. Over here on the side, you can see you can basically line them up and you get benefits from putting them together, and they look really, really cool. So they look here, there's like a Dragonfly and a Mitama, and they're just kind of lined up. You put them together. I love that as well. I love that detail about it. You get to line them up, and that's really cool. I like that a lot. Cool. So to keep going on about the player board, essentially, is that after you kind of you go up here, you get more. You can get more Recaro Rocks, and there's actually limits, so you can't have all 4. You can't have all 4 if anyone gets them, but you can choose to. Up here's basically some spare cards. These get you more points. You can complete them to get more points. If you don't complete them, you lose points. I actually don't have a little piece of the lake here in the middle, but essentially your Kodamas end up traveling on this track, and the goal is to get to the end of these so you can get the max amount of points. You want to be the first one in each one, or try to be the first one in the ones you can be. Cool. Up there is going to be where you place your dice, and you're basically, when you're evoking your guardian, you place your dice there and reap one of the benefits depending on the number on the dice you have. That's all dependent by that. You put them there, they go up here over the hills, and then they go up top of here. And that playing up top here, depending on who comes first, it determines who goes first the next round. So semi-important, especially, I mean, if you really want to go first, because you basically don't get, if you have a plan, you don't get that taken away from you. Cool. More buildings can go here. So the cool thing about the buildings a little bit is that each one has a matching symbol. For example, the red one will go right here where the red one is, and that's you can't put a random building on there. You have to put a matching one. Continuing on, Yokai and Bitoku cards go here. On top, you can see on the corners there's more. And then right here is going to be the Path of Wisdom for your pilgrims, and they want to take their Path of Wisdom essentially. It's going to be up top here. This determines the turn order, and these are going to be your round tracker and your pagoda your round phase. Pagoda is the phase. This cool guardian is the round. So I want you to look at this. I love this meeple. Look how great that looks. It looks awesome. And let's check out the pagoda. I would literally like have these anklets, like have them as like kind of like display almost. I love how they look. Probably one of my favorite meeples of all time. Definitely one of my favorite meeples of all time. Put those back there. Cool. So that's kind of like what you kind of grab your guardian, you put them down, you collect your resources, you move them up, you collect whatever you do your action, you move them up, collect your action, move them up, get your action. That's pretty simple, honestly. The complex part of the game, I'll tell you a little bit more later, but it's going to be more about the iconography. I'll go over that later. So that's an overview of the game, a quick overview, very, very quick. A little bit like, so now the good of the game, right? This is where kind of like what's good, what's bad. So the game itself is beautiful, right? I love the way it looks. It looks great. I mean, the table presence that's there, it's a really beautiful game, well produced. The pieces, check out these resource tokens, right? So this is going to be a sake, this is a jade, a wood piece, and a stone. And they're used, of course, they're used to do different things, stones to help you build things. They're all used to different, to collect crystals, or collect matamas, collect some fire dragonflies, and build your buildings, which is determined by the player board thing here. They're beautiful. The pieces are gorgeous. The card art is beautiful. It looks amazing. Everything about the game, the board itself, I mean, look at all the little details of like the way it looks in the background. They did a really great job, and it shows. It really shows. That was what attracted me to the game the most. The way it looks. It was just a beautiful game, and it's usually what brings me in. When I look at a game, I don't know how it's going to play. Typically, I can look up 10,000 reviews or 5-6 reviews, look up on BGG, I guess. But I truly like experiencing the game for myself. I don't always like following someone's reviews because I know that my experience will be different than someone else's. I know that for a fact. So I love just trying it for myself. So I thought the game was beautiful. I'm like, oh, this looks like a great game. And I love Japanese folklore. I love it. And I love the way it looks. They did an amazing job making this game. Cool. The pieces themselves look great. I love how it looks. They did a great job playing to the theme. The game actually plays pretty smooth. At first, I questioned it a lot, but it does. I mean, it's pretty simple. You play your cards, you awaken guardians, you put them up here, get your stuff, and you continue on. It's a pretty smooth game. It's pretty smooth the way you play. There's not really a hiccup about it. The only thing, and I'll talk about it more later, but the only thing about that is that there's just so much to do. Cool. So, actually, we can actually transfer it now to a little bit of the cons. The game plays smooth, but there's so much to do. I mean, it's just, knowing all the iconographies, right? It's just so hard to remember everything that you end up missing things. I feel like it could have been minimized a little bit, or they could have just made it a little bit smaller in some way, like take maybe 1 or 2 things out. Either the Path of Wisdom in place of the path here, because you can use your movement points for both, which is kind of tough. But if they would just take out the Path of Wisdom, or the Path of Wisdom, which is up there up top, or they could have taken out, like, I think I could really, actually, no, I really don't want this to leave, but when you line up your cards here to make the pathway, I don't want that to leave, but they could have taken that out maybe at that point. I actually really enjoy that. I love that detail. So maybe not that one, but maybe the Path of Wisdom. I just feel like maybe having a couple less things would have made this game even better. It's defined as a mid-Euro, and it does, like, it's cool to have all those options, but I think it's a little overwhelming now. And it's a barrier to entry. And the barrier to entry also comes from barrier to entry to teach, right? Teaching this game was really hard. And the reason why I say that is because the rulebook itself as well, putting both together, the rulebook and the teaching. The rulebook is about 32 pages, I believe it was, and it's a pretty hefty rulebook. For such a simple, like, you move your dice up and down, the game, it's, the reason why it's also difficult to read the rulebook is because the book uses a lot of the names of the stuff, right? Of the name of the name of the icons or the name of the different things here. For example, it's like, I memorize it now because, like I said, I read the rulebook and stuff. And there's like the Mitama. I forgot the crystal name. I think there's another name for the crystals. The Oditama, the Iwakawa rocks, the spirit guard, the different yokais, the Bitokus. Memorizing all these things, it can be tough, especially for a new player who's just trying to understand how to play the game. That could, of course, be minimized, but yeah, reading the rulebook even tells you, like, oh, Mitama does this, or Mitama does this. Well, what is that? Like, what in the world is that? I have to, like, go back and look. When I was learning it, there's a lot of back and forth. I feel like the rulebook is tough, and for a game that feels that it's so simple once you start playing it, the iconography is what makes it difficult. Looking here at the player guide is actually really done really well. I mean, it tells you everything, right? It tells you the game, the phases, and it's 4 pages long. Literally 4 pages. I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4. The iconography is kind of crazy. So if you look through, there's a lot of different icons for different, like, for everything that's happened in the game. Yes, very good, informative. I mean, you have to have that. I think my only issue about that is, like, it's a lot to memorize, and you have to be flipping. I haven't memorized this in any way, but you have to be flipping through the icons to find out what you have to do or what you need to do. That is also, like I said, like, it can be a little overwhelming and intimidating when you have to look through all that. By the way, there's also a name for every part of the board, which adds to the theme, but hard when you're teaching because you want to explain. I don't want to say the bottom of the board. I want to say, for example, the Crystal Caves is where you go to collect your crystals. The Spirit Path is where you go to get your Spirit Path. The Rock Garden is where you get your Iwakawa rocks. There's going to be your Rift of Visions where you get your Spirit cards. This is the River, the Hills, Path of Wisdom. It's a lot. The Home of the Great Spirit is right there at that point. It's a lot to remember. And even when they teach you in the rulebook, they don't say it like they say the Home of the Great Spirit. Okay, so then find out where that is. Or this or that. So that's kind of the thing about that as well. Is it's tough to it's tough to fully grasp all those terms. And I'm really fortunate that I have, like, once I put a word to a picture, it usually sticks to me, right? I usually, okay, the Iwakawa rock. It was tough at first, though. It was really tough. So I was flipping back and forth, and I would forget. I mean, Oditama, Kodama, I would mix everything up. However, it was still plays smooth. It's just that's kind of a big thing, is like the barrier to entry is teaching it as well. Teaching this to 3 more people is tough. Next thing is bringing it to the table. So when you bring it to the table, it's a lot of pieces. I mean, setting it up, look, there's like a stack of pieces here. I just dropped one. And you want to make sure that, I mean, if you're kind of like OCD about it, like I am, you want to have them on order. Make sure they're not flipped up, of course, because that's part of the game. And there's a stack of 2 stacks of crystals, 2 stack of Oditama, 2 stack of dragonflies, 2 Iwakawa rocks. There's 2 stacks of buildings here. That's a lot to, and the thing is too. Another thing is that an insert wasn't provided, right? So I think from this point forward, designers and publishers should consider the fact, hey, we have a heavy game and it's a lot of pieces. Let's maybe provide them with an insert, right? It's easier to bring out at that point. That's what designers and publishers want, I believe. You want them to play your game. You want them to have it on the table. And because it looks great, you want to see it on people's shelves. You want people to enjoy it. That's, I think, the goal, right, for a designer of a game. You want them to enjoy it. Having an insert, I think, would have been so helpful. And the crazy part is that when you bag everything up, I mean, you're shuffling through bags. Putting it away can be a drag as well. You're putting the game away. You're trying to, you're trying to put on little baggies. Okay, does this bag fit that? Does it fit that? That takes a long time. I don't want to worry about that. Setting up the player board is also tedious. It has a bunch of pilgrims, right? Like, it's little pieces that go everywhere. And I think the game plays best at 3 or 4 players. 4 players. Specifically 4, but 3 and 4. Setting up 4 different player boards, it can be time consuming. That's kind of the tough one as well. You're basically set up 4 of these player boards, and it depends how you do with your game group. Usually my game group, everyone comes over, we play the game, and we go home, right? Or we play some games. But the games are typically already set up. I preset the games, so we can just go straight to playing, back to back, right? Or we're done with this game, all right, cool, let's bring this game out, I try to preset the game as much as I can. Presetting for these player boards, plus the board, takes a long time. That's a really big one, is that it takes a long time to set up the player boards. However, even then, like, it's still a good game. I think just bringing it to the table is tough. And I hope maybe Devir Games, they do a second edition, they streamline a couple things. Because I think this is a beautiful game to look at, to enjoy. I love it. And I'm actually worried about, like, I don't think I'm going to bring it to the table anymore. It's hard to table, hard to teach to certain people. And it kind of starts comparing, like, I love the way it looks. I like the way it plays. It's really simple, straightforward after you learn it. However, the iconography is overwhelming. There's just too many options. A lot of analysis paralysis happens while playing the game. Those are kind of my biggest things about it. I wanted to like this game so much, and I was trying so hard to love the game. And I do love the game, as, you know, back and forth as that sounds. But bringing it to the table is tough. That's my hardest thing about the game. And like I said, I think if there would have been an insert by chance or something that organizes the pieces more, this game could very much be a better game than table. That's kind of the biggest things about it. Bitoku is a great game. And going over a little bit of the before you buy. Things to consider before you buy Bitoku. Consider the fact that, one, it's beautiful, of course. It's a beautiful game. It plays smooth. But consider the fact that tabling it and organizing them, bringing it to the table and setting it up takes at least a good 15-20 minutes. Teaching the iconography, and if you don't have players who are very attentive in between turns to understand what their next move is going to be or what they're going to do, they're going to be flipping through the book. Also, there are so many options. There's going to be a lot of analysis paralysis. Keep these things in mind before you buy Bitoku. Beautiful game, smooth to play, however, hard to table. That's basically my before you buy Bitoku. If you made it this far, I appreciate it. Comment, like, subscribe. I appreciate all that. Let's talk games. I love talking about games with you guys. And let me know what you think about Bitoku. Should I give it another shot? Are you going to buy Bitoku? Have you bought Bitoku? Do you feel the same way? Do you disagree? Did I maybe think I should play it a different way? House rule something? Let me know. All in all, though, Bitoku is a great game, and you should at least give it a shot, see if it's for you, and see if you can table it. My name is Juan. Thank you so much, especially if you made it this far. Bye.